So from a little bit of housekeeping perspective, like he said, in this case, the internet made us do this. So for the past month or two, we have been trying out a thing where we're saying, hey, give us the topic, and we'll call that You Made Me Do This. The participation on that has been pretty low. There have been some great submissions from a couple people, and we really do appreciate the couple of people who did give us several good things to talk about. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try for another week or two, and I'll put up the post again this weekend, as I usually do, on our Facebook and Twitter, and say, hey, what do you want us to talk about? In this case, we did not have any submissions, and so we went to a different well where we discovered that the internet is normally mad about something. So we're going to go with this week's everybody's favorite topics, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
What is the internet mad about this week?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna have the buffer ready for that, but I didn't. So, but yeah, I think we're gonna call this. Yeah, what's the internet mad about this week? This week, the internet's mad about some things like spoiling in-game and everything. By the way, we're not gonna spoil anything on this show, but we're gonna be talking about Game of Thrones. I'm gonna show some images here that do not spoil anything. So avert your eyes if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook. If you haven't watched the episode yet. Avert your eyes now, because what we're talking about is the darkness and how dark the episode was. Not in regards to the subject matter, but in regards to the way they filmed said subject matter. It was so dark. There's Thorman. You can barely even see where he is, but he's there. We're back here, so you can open your eyes if you did avert your eyes. We've got quite a few things to talk about in regards to this, but I wanted to really quickly get out the technology bit of it, and I won't rant too much, but part of this is they're dealing with black levels and the brightness keep it being the right way, and the way that they're editing it is they're editing it on HD, HDR, 4K, probably 4K monitors, but they're properly calibrated, and they want it to be really dark, and they really wanted... Because I actually heard one of the cinematographers was saying they wanted it to be natural looking and what it would be like if it was that, if you're in that battle and how dark it was. To which I pulled out a quote from Lord of the Rings when they were filming the Battle of Helm's Deep. And Sean Astin asked where the lighting was coming from. And one of the people on set said it's the same place the music's coming from.
Post-production?
Yeah, post-production, who cares? Just, we're trying to film something. We want people to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And I will say that I think the problem that what people are seeing here is a culmination of things that have been going on in the industry and in regards to editing, in regards to technology. You have really dark scenes on improperly calibrated TVs, and then you have it streaming. And you have compression, and you have crushed black levels to the point where, yeah, it's kind of hard to see stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to come at this. You went very technical on it, and I can go that direction, but I'm going to come at this from the consumer's perspective. I was 10, 15 minutes into the episode, sitting there with my wife, and again, we're not going to spoil things. Don't worry about it. This isn't an episode to talk about, who or who didn't die or how it ended on it or anything like that.
We're not going to do that live.
What happened though is I was sitting there. Our lights are off. I do a movie tint on my Philips Hues. Yep. Turn that down to a nice little glow. Got the rest of the lights off so we can watch this battle. And I say, I don't think I really like this. And she says, yeah, I don't either. Then it just never stops.
Yeah.
It does not end the entire... It is 80 minutes of very poorly lit television.
Yes.
And
the only parts that aren't Yeah.
So you could
Go ahead.
say that the TV is not calibrated, which most people's aren't.
Yeah.
If you guys are curious, you can look online, just Google your TV. Somebody has made the right settings for your TV. Just copy
Pretty
them.
darn close, yeah.
Just do it because, and this is something that made me upset, is that for some reason they just do bad settings on your TV. It makes zero sense whatsoever. Like, why?
I can go into that later. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's poorly lit television.
Yeah.
And you have people saying, well, that's your problem. No, it is my problem. It is absolutely my problem. And I'm telling you that you did it wrong.
Yeah,
Don't talk to me about immersion. Don't talk to me about it. It was 80 minutes of nothing where you can't see jack. And I could see it. It's not like it wasn't. I could see Tormund on my TV. It wasn't an issue for me. I have a 4K TV. It is set correctly.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I work in tech. It looked. I could see it, but that doesn't mean that it looked good.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, and I mentioned this like right before we went live, but we were starting the episode, and Whitney got actually she was trying to finish up some work like right before the episode started. That way she was like completely, focused, because we knew this was going to be a big episode. So it had just started, and she's like, "I'm sorry, can you pause it? I need to do this."
Yeah.
And I realized already how dark it was. People were talking on the internet because we saw it Monday night. So I went in and I put in a calibration disc. So I didn't use I have a sensor that I can put on the TV. I didn't use that this time, but put in the calibration disc and just made sure my calibration was right. And it did not matter. It was still. I turned off all the lights. Like, even so, we may have like a couple lights that are on here and there. We turned off all the lights in the house.
Yeah.
And it still was hard to understand what we were looking at in some cases. And the other thing that really irritates me is there's two things that people have been adding to movies to add to the effect, right? One of them is to do a handheld camera to add tension. So you add tension by having a handheld camera as opposed to the really nice stabilization that they use. And the other thing is what I call the Jason Bourne cuts, which is when they edit a fight to only show the impacts. So every second or so, there's an edit, and you cut to a different view of a stab or a punch or whatever. So there were scenes where I didn't know who was getting stabbed or who was getting, was it Jamie getting stabbed? Was it a White Walker getting stabbed? I couldn't tell until afterwards. And then I had to think about it like later. I was like, did this person get hurt? I couldn't remember. There are countless problems with this, but the best way to watch this, unfortunately, is going to be getting the Blu-ray afterwards, which it shouldn't be that way. And you mentioned that that there was actually a difference in bitrate that the providers are using at this point.
And I'm gonna speak to Kathy's point in the comment in a minute, because I do have some defense of this too. I know why it was done this way, but that doesn't make it good. And so the thing that goes into why it was done this way, or why it's indefensible, in my opinion, by HBO to allow it to be done this way, is because for those of you who don't understand your internet connections, you have your internet connection. You could have a good one, you could have a bad one. You could get 25 down, you get 100 down. I get 130 down. I do pretty decent. But HBO outputs their streams to different companies, and they're outputted at different speeds. And I discovered that one of their worst outputs is actually through their application. HBO Now and HBO go out at 5 MB per second. Whereas Amazon apparently has the best one at 10 MB per second. Now, I understand that anybody who just heard those numbers probably still cringed a little, because they're like, man, that's not very much. Streaming actually doesn't take as much as you might think that it does. That's why streaming is so awesome. But that's still, from a perspective of quality and the buffering that goes into that difference between 5 and 10 was felt by millions.
Yes, and I think they actually did it. I think HBO outputs their own, and I think they host the file on Amazon's from. So Amazon has file. they have services that they sell large companies, and I believe that that's actually how they're doing theirs. So essentially, you're seeing it through Amazon servers, which makes sense why it's better. But it's stupid that their own product wouldn't be as good as Amazon's.
Exactly. That's the part that makes me upset. And the reason why this is all indefensible to begin with, the fact that is they are not taking your consumers into account. And this is where I got into it with somebody where they talked about the average consumer and how maybe this show isn't for the average consumer. I am not the average consumer. No, I am a nerd. I have a podcast. I've watched every single episode. I may not love the show as much as some people, but I dedicate time every single week to watch this show. And they don't target me and give me a quality of the show. So they know that their bit rate, they know that people are going to be streaming. They're not going to be watching this on Blu-ray. They are probably, in this day and age, not watching it through their cable box, which I bet on a cable box, I would bet it looked just fine.
I bet it was
And nobody's really talked about it. Everybody's talked about their stream rates. And so most people are now streaming this content, and you allowed it to be that quality on the screen.
And the thing that I've actually been I started noticing this a while ago because I'm a nerd when it comes to AV and when it comes to quality. I calibrate my TV with a sensor. I mean, if you can't talk about nerdy and geeky enough, I literally put a sensor on my TV to calibrate it because it accounts for the light around it as well as the light being outputted. So in addition to that, like, this is something I've, in regards to compression, in regards to black levels and everything, it's something I've noticed for quite a while. I think now people are seeing it more, but it's something I noticed because I will either, if I'm streaming something, because it's convenient, I'll start to stream something off Netflix or Amazon or whatever. I also have some ripped, this is not even streaming, but they were ripped Blu-ray files, and unfortunately the compression rate that was used when they ripped it wasn't great. So if you put those on, the black levels and crushing it looks or banding, whatever you want to call it, instead of it being like a smooth transition of like dark gray to black, you have these stripes that are there. It looks like someone took like in like Photoshop and just went a different depth, different color levels, or making it deeper.
Like you're on one of those like Huawei TVs that you got at Walmart for $100 on Black Friday.
That's exactly what. Yeah, it's exactly what it looks like, and it's like I have an ultra. I have a HDR calibrated TV, and if I put in a Blu-ray, it looks great. And when I streamed this, it did not. Which I'm going to retract with something that I previously said, which wasn't on the show, but Whitney and I were at Target the other day, a couple of weeks ago probably, and Stranger Things was out on Blu-ray and DVD, and I thought, why would someone buy it though? Because I have it on Netflix. Like, why would they do that? And Netflix is always not going to pull their own stuff off.
No.
But now I'm like, yeah, I can see why you would do that, because it's going to be better quality. I mean,
maybe. Well, it depends, because I mean, this is where you got to give Netflix some credit in at least in recent years, and I would have to actually go onto Netflix right now and look to make sure that I'm not lying here. But a lot of their shows they actually output in 4K.
Yes, which Game of Thrones was not.
Exactly. That's what a lot of people don't understand. I heard some people say my 4K TV looked great, and I'm like, it wasn't that. You probably actually have your TV set up okay, and you got lucky that you have a nice TV. But the show is not output in 4K ever. Correct. It's never been in 4K. It's in Blu-ray. Yep. It's never been in 4K. It's never been released in 4K. It doesn't exist. And but Netflix actually does. You can get Stranger Things, I think you can view. I think at least season 2. I don't think season 1 is in 4K.
I don't know about season 1, but I know season 2 is. And I upgraded this when I had the 4K TV, and I realized how much we watch Netflix. So it's like, I'll upgrade.
And then I continued watching The Office.
Yeah, exactly. We're watching Friends. Actually, Whitney's watching Friends right now. But we kind of alternate between Friends and The Office and Parks and Rec.
Oh, I know.
And like you do. But I will say that Netflix did do an upgrade. Very quick tangent. We'll go back to talk about this. But Netflix did a recent upgrade to the way that they're doing audio, by the way, because they upgraded to 4K, and everyone's like, that's cool. But apparently the audio wasn't being, uploaded from them at a good bit rate. And it was actually the guys who was it the Duffer Brothers? Is that the guys who do Stranger Things?
Sounds right.
Whoever it was.
Always some kind of Rupp brothers. You know, the Russo brothers did the Avengers. The Coen brothers did a whole bunch of stuff. The Ruffer brothers, sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it was Duffers. I don't know, but like maybe is that the guy who does the cakes? I don't know. That's Duff. Sorry. So apparently one of them was watching it, or maybe both of them. I don't know. I assume they just watch everything together, but like they were watching
Duffer Brothers. You're
Stranger
right.
Things. Okay, watching Stranger Things at home, and there's a car scene in the second season for I think the first episode, and they immediately were like, "That sounds crappy," and I don't know why. And I don't know if they have the originals, or I'm sure they have access to be like, what did that sound like when we were working on it?
Yeah,
and it didn't sound that bad. So they worked with Netflix, and now it's uploading. I believe it's
cool.
Atmos ready and everything. Like if you have Dolby Atmos, like that's good. So like that's cool. Like that's how it should be, because if you're streaming, which streaming is like that's what everyone's doing now. It needs to be done the right way, unless you're letting me download it and then play it. And if you're doing that, make sure it's not compressed. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. So in defense of the Game of Thrones episode, again, I do not like this episode. It was barely. I will never watch the episode again. There's a lot of people that'll say, "Oh, wait till it's on Blu-ray." No, I'm not doing it. I'm never watching that episode ever again. In defense of this episode, though, money. That's what Cassie mentioned in the chat. So you can give me the BS about world immersion. Mm-hmm. You can give me the BS that this is what it looked like while it was filming.
Okay.
But when you look at the Battle of Helm's Deep, which is still number one in the best long battle scenes, everybody thought Game of Thrones was going to top it. It did not. I apologize.
Yeah.
The reason why Helm's Deep looks so good is because they got money, baby. They did it right. There's hordes of orcs in the Battle of Helm's Deep. They moved in when they had to. They moved in for very close-up shots on your actors. Go watch it again and see, just see how. And they're working with inferior technology, by the way. Mm-hmm. See how they did it to where you can see where the hordes are, and then how they do small groupings. And I understand why you wouldn't want to do that. And anybody who tells me that that the Game of Thrones episode was shot this way for artistic reasons, I'm going to call you a liar. I don't care if the director comes out and says they shot it this way. It was because of money. Yeah, there was a giant army. That's the only spoiler thing I'm going to say, because you already knew it was there. There's a giant army of White Walkers out there. And there's no way that they had the money to animate all those White Walkers. No,
I would agree. And I think that other than the White Walkers thing, because again, we're not going to spoil anything. I'll stop talking about that because I was going to spoil something accidentally.
Yeah.
Scenes that did not involve White Walkers. Yeah. Interior scenes that did not involve White Walkers.
Those are the best looking scenes of the whole show.
And that was like, hey, I can see that this person's doing it. And that bothered me because I don't need it. Okay, if I go outside of my house right now, I'm gonna have trouble seeing what's around me. I could get jumped by whoever because the street lights aren't that great. But if I was going to film that, I'm going to want the audience to see what I want the audience to see. And in my opinion, the audience wanted to see a giant horde of White Walkers coming at them, and we didn't get that.
Well, I don't even need to necessarily see a giant horde. Again, if you look at Helm's Deep and everything, you can do smaller. All you need is a couple of shots. Yeah. Where you see all of them, and then the rest of the episode, you could have gone close combat where it's all you're paying is extras to get slaughtered. Mm-hmm. That's all you really have to do. Yeah. And there were things about, I'm not gonna, again, no spoilers at all, there's things about those interior scenes where, even though I want to get into it when we do a spoiler cast of this season, that I had an issue with the interior scenes, but the way that the interior scenes were shot was cool.
Sure. I agree.
The around corner angles and stuff, really sweet. Why not just do that outside?
Yeah. So I actually you mentioned before, why don't they just ship the TVs with decent settings?
Yeah, dude.
and ship it that way. And I know why, and I actually got an argument with someone on the internet, because that's what I do apparently. I say something grounded in facts and research and understanding, and someone says that I'm wrong. So
way to prop yourself up there.
yeah, exactly. Well, no, so from my background, what I love doing. So what they do, they ship out the TVs with a setting specifically, and it's called different things on the TV, but it's a setting specifically for the display in the showroom, right? If you go into Best Buy,
motion blur.
Motion blur sucks, by the way, but like there's a setting in regards to like not just motion blur, but like if you can adjust, like cinema is usually pretty getting close to where it should be, but there's usually one that's called like vivid or extra or whatever, and that's the setting the manufacturer wants Best Buy to put it on when they put the TV out there, because they want you to look at that TV versus that TV and go, that one looks better. You're looking at it in a giant bright room of UV lights and a bunch of screens coming at you, and they want that money. You're doing that. Sorry, I didn't get to flip over to you making that, but it's all about the money. If you can make that screen pop and grab someone's attention, like my wife does all the time, and a lot of people do all the time, they'll walk through and they'll go, oh, wow, look at that bird looks real. It almost looks like it's 3D. It's this OLED amazing TV, and it's just gorgeous. If you take that setting and you put it in your house, one, it's not going to look as good, and two, your TV's not going to last as long because it's like outputting as much as it can. It's juice in it. But that's why. I
know that's why they did it, but it still makes me upset because if you look at that bird with good settings at home,
it's gorgeous.
Guarantee you, if you're paying for that Netflix 4K, dude, and you go and you check out Planet Earth, and it looks, it looks so good, and it looks the way that they want you to see it in the store. So here's what you do: you have it set in that store demo mode motion, and then for the TVs that are in the box, just turn on theater mode.
Yeah, it should that setting shouldn't be on, and auto motion plus smoothing blur, whatever they want to call it, motion blur. It's what interpolation. If you don't know what that is, turn it off of your TV unless all you do is watch sports, because that's really the only time that this is good, in my opinion. You may disagree with me, because that's the only time I can see where it would make sense, because it makes it look like I'm really sitting there watching.
Motion blur is for live television. It's not just sports. It's for you can watch it for anything live. And the reason why it sucks otherwise is because it makes everything look like you can see the set. And anybody who can't see it blows my mind, especially, and no offense to English television, because it's awesome, but watch an English television show on a TV with motion blur and tell me it doesn't drive you insane.
Yeah. So the first thing that I did when I bought my TV, and the first thing that I do with every TV that I've bought since they came out with this, is turn that off. I actually was in Best Buy looking at TVs when it was a TV before this, and I asked the guy, can I have the remote, because I want to turn off the setting. He didn't understand why. Like, first of all, I'm sure no one does that, but I wanted to see what it looked like, because they were playing The Dark Knight, and they had The Dark Knight on with with smoothing, and it looked like a college production on a video camera. Like, it didn't look right. It didn't look real. 24 frames a second. That's what film is filmed in. 24 frames a second, not 120. So we talk about refresh rates all the time. We talk about screen and everything, but. The Dark Knight looked like trash. I turned it off, and I was like, this looks pretty good, and that's how I bought the TV. They need to turn that off on every TV. I think that I would love to see a way for your TV to know, like, what it's seeing. I'm sure there's some way that they can do that, but like,
the only thing I've seen so far is where if you pre-program inputs.
Sure, pre-program, but I mean, like, if there was a way for the TV to understand that the feed that it was getting, like some of the information in that stream,
some kind of metadata.
that's not visible, but it can tell the TV, hey, switch to auto motion right now. You're watching the UFC.
You're watching sports.
Turn that on. And then when I go and watch Star Wars, turn that off. Like, that would be great. I have it off always because for that reason.
Yeah, I don't want to mess with it all the time.
No, I don't want to. But either way, we're not going to spoil Game of Thrones here.
I'm not. When it comes to something like this, like there's something to be said for artistic freedom, and I respect the crap out of artistic freedom. There are a lot of times where people get super upset, especially in nerd culture, and I'm sure that on everyone's next favorite segment of what is the internet mad at this week, we will talk about it at some point. But at the same time, we also sometimes get to tell you that you're wrong, and if you're going to claim artistic freedom, but millions of people are saying, I can't even see your art, your artistry, dude. Like, then there's something where you have to adjust for your consumer base.
Howard Stern, like, I kid you not, Howard Stern was talking about it on Monday, and I'm assuming maybe it's part of it's his age. He was not exaggerating. Oh, actually, it's Howard Stern. He's probably exaggerating. But he said all he could see in the entire episode was some fire, and that was it. Like, that's all that he could see. And yeah, maybe he's got a great TV. It's not calibrated. Maybe he is watching it with all the lights on. Maybe his internet connection sucks because he never upgrades it because he's not a geek like we are in this kind of stuff. But you shouldn't have anyone watching your show that says, I don't know what's going on, I can't enjoy this. Especially at this point. This is supposed to be one of the biggest episodes, and now we have a controversy because of the way that they lit.
It was supposed to be the big, like, it's literally an episode we've been building to for years. And if you liked it, I am not telling you not to like it. If you enjoyed it, if you could see perfectly fine, if you did the Amazon stream and everything looked okay to you, and you felt immersed, cool. I'm not telling you that you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm telling the director that they're wrong.
No, I agree. Good for you. Good for you being able to see it. That does not matter. Like, you saying it's not my problem. Okay, it was a problem for a lot of people. So, anyways, we'll talk more about Game of Thrones and we'll
give us about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, in 3 or 4 weeks, we'll do a spoilery video. It'll be on YouTube because I don't want someone to click on our Facebook feed and start getting spoiled when they didn't know what we were going to be talking about. So we'll do that at a later time. So let us know what you thought about Game of Thrones. Could you see anything in there? And what did you think of the battles? Try not to spoil it in the comments because some people haven't seen it yet, but just give us like your general feeling of it and don't spoil who died. And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye!